It's my pleasure today to be here with Professor David Porter, the Donna and David Janes Endowed Chair in Experimental Economics at Chapman University, and longtime researcher here at ESL. So let me start by getting a little bit of background, Dave. During what time periods were you here conducting research at ESL?
Well, that is an interesting question. So I'm going to give you a side story that might make it interesting for you.
Sure.
So I became a graduate student in 1980, okay? But I was not intending to ever come to the University of Arizona. I applied to other places and got in, and I was going to leave, but I was married, freshly married, and my parents lived in Arizona, and I just didn't want to leave. So I went to a professor of mine at ASU, Arizona State University, who mentored me as an undergraduate, and I said, I don't want to go. He had helped me, with all my applications. And he said, well, there's this guy in Tucson. It's really a brilliant guy doing some stuff. I don't know what it is. You should contact him. So this is back in the day. You know what you would do? You would pick up the phone and call his office. And guess what? Vernon answered the phone, okay? So he answers the phone, and I tell him, my story. And the first question he asks me is, oh, you're an undergraduate. And he goes, how are prices formed? And I'm sitting there going, what is he asking? And I said, supply and demand. He says, no. How is it that they actually are produced? Where did they come from, these prices? And I'm not getting this. And so he tells me a little bit about markets, and I didn't really know what he was telling me at the time, but my body said, I gotta go find out what this guy's doing. That's how I ended up there. Yeah, that's how I ended up there, and I hung around him, and that's how I learned. So 1980 is when I showed.
I see, yes.
Yeah. And that's when there was no ESL. ESL was Vernon.
Yes.
In the Plato lab, quote unquote, in the library. So there.
This Plato lab was shared with other departments.
Plato was a learning system, so people would go and do their homework on it or learn some physics or whatever. And Arlie had found out about it. Arlie Williams, the first guy to do it.
It was a room set up with PCs.
It was not even a room. It was just an open area where they had these Plato term big old things, and you would go up there. Now you had to program your stuff, so it had to be programmable. And we'd have the anti-collusion devices, right? The pieces of cardboard you would tape on the side so that people could, write manual stuff, and you just run them, and that was it. And I remember the first time I went with Vernon, and he was running a double auction, and I'm sitting there watching it, and he's telling me about it, and he was so excited. I thought, I want to do this. If that guy can get excited, this is not his first one. There's something going on here, and so there was no ESL. It was basically that, and then the program started growing because they were hiring people that were doing experiments. Jim Cox was involved. There was a lot of really good people.
You enrolled as a PhD student at this point, 1980.
Right, 1980. Okay. And what I was very interested in, because I also went to some of those first conferences here, that when there was an ESA, it was just a group of guys.
Westward look where we are now.
Just people showing up. There's I think the first time I came as a graduate student, there were 22 people or something, And I just got interested in designing markets because I figured, wow, look they're doing public goods, they're doing this, Steve Rossini had just done his dissertation on combinatorial auctions, and I thought, okay, I got to do this. That's what I got involved in doing. And so,
what was your dissertation about?
Well, that's an interesting story. So my first the first thing I started with was getting pretty hard. So I was going to do the full theory of double auctions and how things, and that was
very ambitious.
Yeah, it was not going to happen. But I got interested in the detour. That is the most important detour in my life. So in end of 1982, a law professor here at the University of Arizona, Junius Hoffman, a brilliant guy, was assigned by the governor to fill out the term of a commissioner at the Public Utility Commission who died in office.
Okay.
And there are 3 commissioners. And he called me up. He got my name from Vernon and Michael Block. And he said, listen, do you want to have fun for 18 months? That's basically what he told me. I said, well, that sounds interesting. And he goes, I know the law, but I know no economics at all. And they said, you could be helpful. And so I became the assistant to the chairman of the Public Utility because he became chairman. And we were the
While
swing.
still a PhD student.
I was still a PhD student. He was the swing vote in every case. And this was the time of full deregulation. It was amazing. So that's when I worked with him, and then we got Vernon and Steve at the time to do the electric power deregulation in markets. That didn't happen here, but they happened in Australia. So I saw that. I saw the sausage being made, and I saw a way that it could be solved.
Yes.
But so I was ready to go back, and I was going to work on combinatorial market designs and stuff. And I get a call from Charlie Plott.
At Caltech.
And he goes, there's a project that I think you would be good at. And you're going to help John Ledger in designing markets for space station pricing. And
you're still a graduate student.
I'm still a graduate student. Okay. So I'm telling you, this is the detour of detours. I'm working on, combinatorial markets. I'm working on learning by doing models, and boy, this is a long story. I'm sorry. People who are listening to this going, what is this guy talking about? It tells you your plans aren't what you really think they are, so you got to go with the flow. And anyway, so I show up there, and I'm assigned a graduate student to help me with this. Okay. The graduate student, I was the graduate student, because the graduate student assigned was Jeff Banks. The most brilliant person just a brilliant guy who was just down to earth, funny and all. And we just got involved in public goods. And part of the stuff I did with him got into my dissertation, designing public goods markets, political decision making. And so he actually helped me, a graduate student, because he was really advanced. Okay, so that tells you everything. And then John Ledger, and then we started doing the combinatorial markets, awesome, and all those things together. And so that's
and that became your dissertation.
That came afterwards, actually. It was all on public goods, designing those markets. It was on learning by doing. It was things of that sort. So yeah, it's a little theory, a little experiments and that sort of thing.
Okay, and then later on, you were back at ESL at a later point in your career.
Yeah, so I was at Caltech from 84 to 97, something like that, 98. And but I took a year off and visited Arizona in 1988 to 89. I was a visiting professor here.
Those were very, very vibrant times at ESL.
Absolutely. It was happening like nobody's business. You could feel the energy, which was quite something. And when I showed up, I didn't have anything perfectly planned. And Vernon came to me and he said, let's work on bubbles together. And so that's what we did. We expanded all the bubbles. So I did so many bubble experiments of different types and all. So that got me started in the asset market stuff and behavioral finance and stuff like that. And then I went back to Caltech. And then in 97, I think I got a call from Vernon and he said, it's time to come home. That's what he told me. So that's why I came home.
And then how long were you at Arizona after that?
Till 2001.
So, okay, so you have these 3 different time periods.
Yes.
You were at ESL.
Yes.
Who were your colleagues that you had the most contact with? You mentioned Vernon, but who else was around in those different periods?
It's interesting. Well, the department had changed quite a bit because of the quality of the faculty was quite impressive, And when I showed up, they decided to change the program because of the quality of the faculty, and so they upped the game. So as graduate students, I will just tell you, in my class and the class behind me, I'm the only one who got a PhD. Everybody else did not finish. So Glenn Vale was my office mate, a brilliant guy. he went on to do a lot of things, not academic-wise. He was chief of rates and plans for Southern Cal Edison and created the software Clean Sweep, if you know, and so he became very rich, let's put it that way. Mark Olson was a year behind me, and he left to go to AT&T and then get his PhD at Caltech. Don Corsi was in front of me, and Dan Kreidel. And that's it. Basically, Marcy Luke, everybody didn't make it. They did not make it because they really upped the game. It was quite impressive.
Rigorous program.
Very rigorous. In fact, when I took the prelims, it was me and Marcy and Glenn. And I'm the only one who passed. And Marcy left in the middle of the exam and never came back. That'll tell you something. That was quite impressive.
It's been some tough standards. And
Yeah.
when you were there in 88, 89, who did you kind of, who was using the lab at that time?
Everybody. It was quite, oh, come on. So Vernon, there was, Steve was there, Recenti, Jim Cox, Ron Oaxaca, Mark Isaac, Stan Reynolds, I think David Kahn was there. Let's see, there were some younger people. I think David Lucken Riley was there. I'm not quite sure, possibly. And then graduate students galore. So, you know, Praveen, Carrie, and all kinds of people. So there was a lot of
very
great.
Impressive.
Yeah, very, very impressive group, yeah.
And then in the third time you were there, from 97 to 2001, it was essentially a lot of the same people were still there.
A lot of the same people. Yeah, a lot of the same people. Nobody really left. They were adding somebody here and there, but the level of the graduate students was pretty darn good. You know, I mean, they were really good.
So can you give me a feel for how the technology for running experiments evolved over the time you were there, from 1980 to 2001? That's a long period of time.
It's a long period of time.
Maybe give us a feel for how things changed in that.
So it was very interesting. So the first thing is, if you wanted to run electronic experiments, you better learn Plato. But Plato had all kinds of its own issues, because the mainframe was in Illinois. And if you tried to run stuff during the summer months, during the monsoon, you'd have to shift stop all the machines, because any lightning would cause the microwave line between here to Illinois to crab up, so you'd have to fix these and sort of things. A lot of experiments, when it finally moved down into the lab itself, it then shifted to PCs. Okay, and you could put NovaNet on there, which was the Plato version.
NovaNet was on the PC itself.
Yeah, on the PC. So you can do...
You need phone lines to...
No, you could do a local area network. And so, but we still did ones by hand. We did a lot of them by hand. Now, at Caltech, they were all by hand, until I got this grant from NASA to get all these computers. And most important thing, computers, Xing-Yang Li is who we got, because he was working on this project with us, and that's who got hired.
Combinatorial auctions by hand.
Yes.
That sounds quite
Yes.
exhausting.
Okay. Yes, I'm going to tell you a story. God, I hate that. You might have to cut this out, but whatever.
Okay.
This tells you a lot about Caltech and the quality of the student there. So I'm doing combinatorial auctions by hand. Mark Olson is the graduate student helping. He wrote the program. It was a trucking. You had to buy lines. So you had to move trucks along a network of nodes and links. And you had to bid for the link, so you'd want to get the full link to count. And so everybody would send in their bids. He would type them in. It would go up on the overhead screen. And then I'd write down the new prices, and then everybody would put new bids in. And one time we're doing it, there's this guy in the back, Chari, raised his hand. He says, "That's not correct." And I said, "What do you mean it's not correct?" He says, "There's a better solution than that one, given those bids." And he tells us what it is, and it is. And
so he had in his head, he solved the whatever knapsack problem.
Whatever it was.
Oh,
and I looked at Mark, and Mark goes, "Oh, he's correct. I'm guessing that the program is wrong. We better fix that." So I thought that's the story.
That's one way to debug a program.
Well, so yeah, we did those by hand. So that was the Sears trucking auction that we did.
But by the end, everything was fully computerized by
Yeah.
2001.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. By 2001, you did everything by computer. But you know, the one thing I can tell you is, while it's better for the subjects, it's better for the data stuff, it takes a lot longer to do them on a computer than just do them by hand up on the board. Let me tell you, it's a quickie. Yeah, as you know. Yeah.
So, yeah, can you give us a sense for how your experience at ESL influenced your career later on? I'm sure it had a really big influence. But,
It was
can you tell
the
us a bit
influence. It was,
how that
you know,
affected
let's.
your career.
I'm sorry. Let's just be really honest. ESL at the very beginning, you might as well just call it Vernon. Okay. So Vernon is the reason why I do what I do. There's just no question about it. He was very supportive, had great ideas. You want to work with him, you want him to read your work. He influenced me. And John Ledgard and Jeff Banks, and even Charlie. But Jeff Banks was quite something. You know, he was a significant person, you know. But it's clearly that influenced everything I did. In fact, I was told by John Ledgard one time, well, if you want to get tenure, you probably shouldn't be doing these things because they're not the normal thing people are doing here. I said, but you're working with me on these. How is this? And he goes, well, you got to do some meat and potatoes. And I said, I won't do it. And Vernon, I called him, and he said, just do what
you... more mainstream kind of research.
Yeah, yeah, you know, right, meat and potatoes. Yeah, not, you know, certainly not mechanism design. You know, that was very much just starting, and, you know. But Vernon said, you just do what you like doing, period. You know, you'll find somebody who, you know, values it. Yeah.
It's really interesting. So, I'm wondering if you have a kind of a funny or interesting story about something that happened at ESL while you were here.
I do. I know you gave me that question. I was thinking, well, what could that be? Well, there are a lot of them. But this one's really, it was quite something. So, when I was here in the, you know, visiting, we ran an experiment. NASDAQ had contacted Vernon, and it was about replacing the brokers, you know, the people running, the market making, thank you, with just electronic, and, you know, with, you know, and so we started running those experiments. So how do you do the broker experiment? We just had a human, and they would get to see the orders first. They could post a bid-ask spread. They had priority in the queue, and they would just get paid the spread, right? Well, we started running those first ones, and you know, the competition in there was making because of the electronic speed and all, the brokers weren't making very much because the spreads were so tight. So what we did is we increased what they got paid per trade. So their exchange rate was totally different. In fact, more orders of magnitude different. Well, one guy's in the experiment, and he's really good, and he makes a couple of trades, and he made $740, and we paid him.
Wow.
$740 for 2 hours and a half.
Wow.
For 15 years afterward, he would contact me every year and ask me how I'm doing, and still was amazed that we paid him. He invited me out he was the, I guess, the pro out at Conquistador over here. He'd invite me out for golf or whatever. For 15 years, he would call me every year because he was amazed that he didn't know. He said, there's no way you were going to pay me, and when you did, it changed how I think about people. He said, gee, many Christmas. They said they were going to do what they're going to do, and he said, I do that. You know?
You have a no deception policy?
And it did happen. And the thing that's the interesting story is he called me for 15 straight years afterwards, every year.
Actually,
the anniversary.
He told everybody he knew about how much
Yeah.
money he made.
Oh,
a lot more.
I presume so. Yeah.
Subjects that way.
I presume so. Yeah. So that's the funny story. I don't know if it's funny. It's just that, you know, he was stunned, and then to contact me every year for 15 years was quite something.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, thank you very much for sitting down with me, Dave, and
Okay.
discussing your experience at ESL.
Yeah.
And,
It seemed to be
very
more
happy
about me than ESL, but ESL was very unique, and it really was the model for everybody else, and that's how all these labs started. It was the model. It was a juggernaut
Yeah, many
of
people
producing
come
stuff.
through and visit and look at
Oh
look at
yeah,
the lab.
that's how they learned how to do
experiments.
it, because literally, you know that experiments are done by doing. They're not done by, writing them down on a piece of paper. You've got to actually get up and do it. When you see it done, it changes how you approach. So yeah, a lot of people
It
got
can't be
trained.
taught in the classroom.
It's very difficult, yes. It's very difficult. Okay. That was,
Okay,
thank
thank
you.
you very much. Thanks
Yeah.
again, Dave.